God the Father is the one who reveals the truth about himself to those he will save. Well, if you read Matthew 16:14-17 is where Peter says, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God, and blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed this to thee, but our Father which is in heaven." And there's nothing in that passage about anybody being saved. As a matter of fact, later on, after Jesus rises from the dead, he tells Peter, "When thou art converted." So things can be revealed to people apparently before they're converted. And just 6 verses later in Matthew chapter 16, verse 23, Jesus calls Peter Satan. "Get thee behind me, Satan." Peter just had this revelation, and then he calls him Satan right after that. So how much conjecture is going into there? All right. Is there any epistemic humility, beginner's mind, or first principles thinking there? No. You're starting with Calvinism, and then you're reading it. So it's like, I have this chart. George Antonius just asked me for it recently, back when we did 1 Corinthians 2:14, where you have an input of Calvinism, then the processes of hermeneutics, and then the output is Calvinism. But you started and ended with the same thing. What should be happening is you start with an beginner's mind, first principles thinking, and epistemic humility. Then you have the process of interpretation, and then the output should be something different than what you started with. In Calvinism, the output of the interpretive process is the same as the input. It's no different from what they started with. You already thought Calvinism was true, and the only interpretation of any text you will accept is one that bolsters Calvinism, and you will find a way to interpret every text in favor of Calvinism as a post hoc rationalization, but that doesn't mean at all that that's what the text is talking about. That's why Christians, if you're a Christian out there dealing with a Calvinist, and the Calvinist makes a suggestion for what a text means, you don't have to pay that the time of day, because they didn't get that from the text. You don't have to prove it wrong. They got it from post hoc rationalizing Calvinism into the text. And all you got to do is just make the point that that would not organically come from the text, from beginner's mind exegesis. So who has God revealed himself to? Romans 1:19-21, because that which may be known of God is manifest in them, for God hath showed it unto them. Who? Reprobates, people who aren't saved. For in the Calvinist doctrine of reprobates, that you can't ever get saved. Now, the text doesn't say that, but that's their own doctrine. So they're contradicting themselves when they say this. For the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. So the Father just reveals himself to those he will save. It looks like he reveals himself to everybody, because that when they knew not God, when they knew God, see that? They knew God. Bam. They glorified him not as God, neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. So there's a darkening that comes after a revelation because of how the people respond, not because of a decree of election or reprobation or any such nonsense. And then Titus 2:11, okay, who does God reveal himself to? For the grace of God that bringeth salvation hath appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lust, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world. Thank you, Awanas. Some of this stuff's burned into my head since the 3rd grade and it ain't coming out.
Your content continues right after this. This video is a short segment of a longer one. The full-length video is in the description below. We're moving all content on relationships, growth, and transformation to our new channel called BTF Grow and Relate. Future content in these categories will also be posted there, so subscribe and hit the bell icon to that channel to stay updated. Our website, Beyond the Fundamentals, offers valuable resources including our reading list and glossary to help digest our content. For personalized help, we offer paid one-on-one consultations. Just visit the website, scroll to the consultation section, and fill out the form to book a session. If you find our content valuable, please consider supporting us financially. It takes time and resources to create this content, and donations help make it possible. Supporters also receive an invitation to our weekly FSI group sessions. You can donate via the QR code or visit our donate page on the website, which offers 5 electronic ways to give. If you prefer another method, send me an email for more options. Follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and X, formerly known as Twitter. And now back to the content.
So the next phrase we're going to look at, oh my goodness, it's atrocious. He says, chooses them for salvation. And then what does he list? John 15:16. There's nothing in John 15:16 about being chosen for salvation. Let's look. Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you for salvation. Is that what it says? No. And ordained you that you should go and bring forth fruit. It looks like they were chosen to do something. That kind of sounds like being chosen for service, not salvation, doesn't it? And ordained ye that ye should go and bring forth fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatsoever ye shall ask of the Father in my name, he may give it you. That's very interesting. That's what the choosing is all about. There's no salvation mentioned there. So what is this about? And if you've been reading John so far, look what he says in John chapter 6, verse 70. Have not I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? Not chosen for salvation. One of them doesn't even get salvation. Okay, they're chosen to be apostles. Look in the other ones, in the other gospels, it says they're chosen to be disciples and apostles. What is that? Service. It's an act of service. They're chosen to serve in a particular capacity. In the videos that we have, we looked at every occurrence of the word eklegomai, or the Greek words that get translated as elect and chosen and choice, Greek and Hebrew words, Old Testament and New Testament. We looked at all of them, every single occurrence. And guess what? Nobody is ever getting chosen to be converted to Christianity. There are no places where lost people are chosen to be converted to Christianity. It turns out that the choosing, eklegomai, is always about service, with no exceptions. And that's after looking at every single occurrence with beginner's mind, first principles thinking, and epistemic humility. That's submitting ourselves to what the text says, rather than what it is presumed to teach by a bunch of Gnostic, empty-minded fools. And then after we did the election word occurrence analysis, where we, in public, on YouTube, went through every occurrence of all those words, then I did a video called Election is Nothing Like You Were Told, where we present the findings and coalesce them into a set of coherent thought. Like, what's the takeaway from this? And the takeaway is really that most of the stuff Calvinists and Arminians say about election is wrong, because election isn't about salvation. So when this clown, whoever wrote this, is saying chooses them for salvation, where does he get that from? And he cites John 15:16. Okay, if you keep reading in John, after John chapter 6, okay, you chose 12 and one of them's a devil. I speak not of all of you all, I know whom I have chosen, but that the scripture may be fulfilled. He that eateth the bread with me lifted his heel against me. So they're talking about who's going to betray him. Still talking about the 12. John 17:12. While I was with them in the world, I kept them in thy name, that those that thou gavest me I have kept, and none of them is lost, but the son of perdition, that scripture might be fulfilled. So there's nothing, like, whoever is saying this does not believe John 15:16. They think chooses for salvation. They believe that. John 15:16 doesn't say that. Well, it teaches that. It doesn't say that. So they don't believe John 15:16. That's why I say Calvinists don't believe the Bible. I'm not being hyperbolous here. They literally do not believe the Bible. And it's amazing to me that grown adults, it's like this kind of nonsense, or this kind of writing stuff is something that a sixth grade teacher should stop a student from writing. It's like, where's the adult in the room? How is Calvinism able to go so far and get into the heads of so many people? I can't believe this. So many people are cognitively inept enough to fall for Calvinism when they obviously, can you read? I mean, it's so simple. As in literally every other case of scripture, eklegomai is about service, not salvation. In this case, they are chosen to be apostles, not for salvation, and one of them doesn't even wind up saved. If you want more on the election thing, well, I actually do have a video on John 15:16. It's been years, though, and I don't know if I would do it differently today, but if you want to look at the election stuff, I highly recommend these two videos here. Now, somebody said, I really wish you and James White would do a debate. Now, it just so happens that me and James White, we were the first two that were supposed to do the debate that took place back in February. I think it was 25th or whatever. Jason Breida wound up doing that video, and it's not like I'm salty about that at all. Jason Breida did great, and I was there, supportive, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not downplaying anything Jason Breida did. But in June, previously, when what's his name, Rice, John Rice, Jim Rice, whoever was running it up was contacting me, they said they wanted us to debate predestination. And so I asked a clarifying. So James White was going to debate me. They selected me to be the person James White would crush at the end of the Calvinist conference that they were having up there in Tennessee. They said, we want to debate predestination. And so I I responded back asking for clarification. First of all, they're saying the biblical doctrine of predestination. Let's debate the biblical doctrine of predestination. And if you've been listening to this video so far, you know why that's already a problematic statement, okay? These people don't know their way upwards down. And then I asked a clarifying question. I said, are they asked, okay, do you want to debate the predestination of all things or just predestination as it relates to soteriology? Now, then he backed out. James White backed out, didn't want to debate me anymore. And the reason for that is because they do a bait and switch. What they do is they start with one. Oh, we're just going to debate predestination. And they start with one, either the predestination of all things, and then they narrow it down in the middle of the debate to the predestination of salvation. And it's a bait and switch. Or they start with predestination salvation and then switch it to predestination of all things. What they do is they get you focused in the wrong area, then they switch it halfway through, which is two completely different things. As soon as I asked that clarifying question, they were done, they were out, they realized they're not going to get the best of me, and so they backed out and got somebody else. And so that's fine. I mean, you know me, I don't really think debate is a good thing to do anyway. And because of the way I see scripture, I don't have enough in common with James White. Like Jason Breida and Leighton Flowers, they both debated James White earlier this year. And they have a lot in common. They share a lot of same beliefs with James White, like the Hebraic megazeus and salvation at a punctiliar time and all this kind of stuff. You know, we've got charts where we've shown that in our provisionism videos. Like I don't have enough in common with James White like they do in order for a debate to be productive. We would have to go all the way back to what a lot of various different words mean in the context in which they appear, and that doesn't make for a good debate. So that really wouldn't pan out, and I'm pretty sure you couldn't get James White to say yes to it. But I am happy if you think of any Calvinist that is willing to have a discussion. I'm happy to have them on the channel to have a discussion.